Okay, so have you ever just been staring at the ceiling, like completely zoned out, maybe scrolling endlessly, like nothing seems interesting, not tired, not exactly stressed, just blah?
Yeah, that feeling like you're just stuck in neutral. We all know it. Boredom.
Yeah. And, usually we try to avoid it, right? Like stay busy, be
Yeah.
productive. But today we're going deep on boredom.
We're going to flip the script on boredom, right? We've got some fascinating research that shows how boredom can actually be a good thing. Like seriously powerful stuff.
So in this deep dive, we're going to figure out exactly what boredom is. We're going to look at the different types of boredom and the science behind it, like what's actually happening in our brains. But most importantly, we want to help you, the listener, take that blah feeling and turn it into something that actually moves you forward. We're talking motivation, creativity, and even.
Innovation. Yeah, we've been digging into some sources that suggest boredom isn't the enemy. That might actually be like a secret weapon.
So first things first, what are we even talking about here? I mean, we all know what boredom feels like, but how do we, define it?
Well, one definition that really resonated with us is this idea of boredom being a state of dissatisfaction and restlessness. It's that feeling of being disconnected from what you're doing or your surroundings.
Like you're just going through the motions.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
But it's more than just like wanting to chill out.
exactly. And this is where Dr. James Dankert's definition really adds another layer. He says boredom is the feeling of wanting to be engaged in something meaningful, but being unable to. It's not just the absence of stuff to do, it's the absence of that spark.
Okay, so that makes a lot of sense. It's not just I'm bored because there's nothing to do. It's I'm bored because I'm not connecting with what I'm doing.
Exactly. And that's actually a key difference between boredom and apathy.
Right, because with apathy, you just don't care.
Exactly. With apathy, there's no desire for engagement. With boredom, that desire is still there, even if it's a bit muffled. It's like your internal engine is still running, it's just idling.
And that's important, right? Because that means boredom has potential. It's not a dead end.
Totally. Now, here's another interesting thing. It turns out boredom isn't just one thing. There are different flavors of boredom.
Flavors of boredom, like strawberry boredom and chocolate boredom.
Well, not quite, but you get the idea. Our sources break it down into a few types, and each one feels a bit different. First, we have situational boredom. This is the kind of boredom we all experience in, like, everyday situations. Waiting in line, sitting through a boring meeting, that kind of thing.
Ah, yes, the classic hurry up and wait boredom.
Exactly. It's temporary, it's specific to the situation, and it usually passes pretty quickly. But then there's existential boredom, and this is a bit heavier.
Okay, yeah, existential boredom. That sounds deep.
It is. It's more of a fundamental dissatisfaction with life itself. It's often linked to a feeling of lacking purpose or meaning. It's not just about being bored in the moment, it's about feeling like your life lacks direction.
So, you could be doing a ton of stuff, being super busy, but still feel existentially bored because you're not connecting with the bigger why behind it all.
You got it. And then there's chronic boredom. This is when boredom is a persistent feeling. It can be a sign of something deeper going on, like depression or ADHD.
Okay, so chronic boredom is definitely something to pay attention to. It might be a signal to reach out for help. But let's go back to the science for a minute. What's actually happening in our brains when we feel bored?
So, brain researchers have actually identified some key areas that play a role in boredom. One of them is the default mode network, or DMM for short.
DMN.
Got it.
Think of the DMN like your brain's screensaver. It's what kicks in when you're not actively focused on a task. It's that state of mind wandering and daydreaming. And when we're bored, the DMN becomes more active.
So it's like our brains are looking for stimulation, and when they don't find it in the outside world, they start searching internally.
Let them go. And then there's the dopamine system. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that's involved in motivation, pleasure, and reward. Oh yeah, dopamine, the feel-good chemical.
Right. But when we're bored, our dopamine levels drop, and we feel less motivated and engaged. What's interesting is that novelty and challenge can actually boost dopamine. So that's why starting a new hobby or tackling a complex problem can feel so energizing.
So if we're feeling bored, maybe we need to shake things up a bit. Introduce some novelty, challenge ourselves.
That's a great strategy. Now, the last brain area we'll mention is the prefrontal cortex. This is the part of your brain that's responsible for planning, decision-making, and attention.
The prefrontal cortex, our brain's executive control center.
Exactly. And when we're bored, the prefrontal cortex actually has a harder time staying focused. We get easily distracted, we struggle to make decisions, and we might even act more impulsively.
So boredom really messes with our ability to think clearly and stay on track.
Yeah.
But why? Why do our brains even experience boredom in the first place? Like, what's the evolutionary purpose?
That's a great question, and there are a lot of theories. But one that we found particularly interesting is the mismatch theory of boredom.
Mismatch theory. Tell me more.
Basically, this theory suggests that boredom arises when there's a mismatch between what our brains expect from a situation and what's actually happening.
Okay, so, like, if I'm expecting a thrilling action movie and I end up watching a documentary on the history of Lent, my brain's going to be like, whoa, this is not what I signed up for.
Exactly. And that mismatch can trigger boredom. Now, this can happen in two ways. Either the situation isn't stimulating enough, so our brains get underwhelmed and tune out,
Right, like the Lent documentary.
or the situation is too overwhelming, too challenging, so our brains disengage to avoid stress.
So it's like Goldilocks. Our brains need that just right level of challenge to stay engaged.
Exactly. And this is where the concept of flow comes in. Flow is a state of complete absorption and engagement in an activity. It's when you're so focused that you lose track of time and everything else fades away. It's that sweet spot where you're challenged but not overwhelmed. And boredom is, in many ways, the opposite of flow.
Flow. We should do a whole deep dive on flow, but back to boredom. So we've talked about the types of boredom, the science behind it, but what are some of the specific things that cause us to feel bored?
Well, our sources point to a few common culprits. Repetitive tasks are a big one. When we're doing the same thing over and over, our brains crave novelty.
Oh, yeah. If I have to fill out one more spreadsheet.
Another biggie is a lack of autonomy. When we feel like we have no control over what we're doing or how we're doing it, boredom sets in. It's that feeling of being stuck, being
Yeah,
forced.
like being told to do something versus choosing to do it. Huge difference.
Huge. And then there's low novelty, which we talked about earlier. Our brains need new information, new experiences. When things become predictable and routine, we get bored.
Makes sense. Our brains are like, seen it, done that, next.
And lastly, the sources point to a disconnection from meaning as a major cause of boredom. If we don't see the purpose in what we're doing, if we don't feel like it's important, we're more likely to feel bored.
Okay, that makes sense. If something feels pointless, we're not going to be very motivated to do it. So we've covered a lot of ground here, but let's bring it back to that key distinction. Boredom versus apathy versus laziness.
Right, because understanding that difference is crucial to seeing the potential in boredom.
So remind us again, what sets boredom apart from apathy and laziness?
The key difference is that with boredom, there's still a desire for engagement, a drive to find something meaningful. With apathy, that desire is missing. And with laziness, it's more about a reluctance to put in effort.
Got it. So with boredom, there's still that spark, that potential energy waiting to be tapped into.
Exactly. And this is where it gets really exciting, because the research actually suggests that boredom can be a positive force.
A positive force. You mean like boredom can actually be a good thing?
You heard that right. And we've got some pretty amazing historical examples to back this up. Think about Isaac Newton. The story goes that he was sitting under an apple tree, maybe feeling a bit bored,
Contemplating the meaning of life.
and bam! An apple falls on his head, and he has this eureka moment about gravity.
So boredom might have led to one of the most important scientific discoveries of all time.
It's possible. And then there's Charles Darwin. He spent years on these long, sometimes monotonous voyages. And it was during those long stretches of time with ample opportunity for observation and probably quite a bit of boredom that he developed his groundbreaking theory of evolution.
Wow. So boredom might have actually helped to shape our understanding of the natural world.
It's amazing, right? And the reason for this is that boredom pushes our brains to seek novelty. When the outside world isn't providing enough stimulation, our minds start to wander, to explore new ideas, to make connections we might not have made otherwise.
So it's like boredom is a catalyst for creativity and innovation.
That's the idea. When we feel bored, our brains are basically saying, hey, this isn't working. Let's find something more interesting, more meaningful.
So instead of seeing boredom as a sign that we're doing something wrong, we can see it as a signal to switch gears, to explore new possibilities.
Exactly. Boredom is not the enemy. It's a messenger. It's telling us that something needs to change. And when we embrace that message, boredom can become a powerful motivator.
Okay, so how do we actually do that? How do we reframe boredom and turn it into something positive?
The key is to start paying attention to how you respond to boredom. Instead of immediately reaching for a distraction, pause and ask yourself, What is this boredom trying to tell me?
So, like, the next time you find yourself scrolling mindlessly on your phone, stop and ask yourself, why am I doing this? What am I actually hoping to find?
Exactly. And then instead of reaching for that distraction, try something different. Maybe take a walk, brainstorm some ideas, read a book, or just sit quietly and let your mind wander.
So it's about seeing boredom as an opportunity, not a threat.
Precisely. And remember, boredom is often a sign that we need more challenge, more novelty, more meaning in our lives. So, what small changes can you make to bring those things into your daily routine?
That's a great question for everyone listening. And here's another one to ponder. What seemingly boring aspects of your life right now might actually hold hidden potential?
What if you were to approach those things with a fresh perspective, with a sense of curiosity and openness?
Who knows? You might just uncover a whole new world of possibilities. You might find that boredom, that feeling we all try so hard to avoid, is actually the key to unlocking your next big idea, your next adventure. And that's something to think about.